The gun was pointed at James's head. Min Jun's mother, alive, fierce, and radiating barely contained rage, stood in the nursery where Keisha had fought off the assassin just days before. In her hand, a Glock. In her eyes, 25 years of fury. "Put him down," she commanded, her voice steady despite the madness in her gaze. Keisha held James tighter, her body positioned between him and the weapon. "If you want him, you'll have to go through me." "That's exactly what I plan to do." The safety clicked off, and Keisha realized with horrifying clarity, this wasn't about James. This wasn't about revenge. This was about something far more twisted. Min Jun's mother wasn't here to kill her grandson. She was here to take him. Welcome back to True Soul Stories. This is it, the final episode of this series. If you've been with us since part 1, you know this story has taken you through hell and back. But nothing prepared you for how this ends. If you're curious about whether Keisha, Min Jun, and baby James get their happy ending, you need to watch until the very end. Hit that subscribe button right now because after this conclusion, I'm dropping another story that's going to blow your mind. But first, let's finish what we started. Let's get into it. 1 hour earlier. "Hello, son," the woman said softly. "I've missed you." Min Jun stood frozen in his father's study, his world fragmenting around him. The woman he'd mourned for 25 years, the mother he barely remembered, stood before him, very much alive and looking at him with eyes that held both love and something darker. "Mom." His voice cracked on the word. You're really alive?" "Very much so." She moved closer, and Keisha noticed everything about her. The way she moved like a predator, graceful and dangerous. The expensive clothes that spoke of hidden wealth. The calm confidence of someone who'd survived impossible odds. "I know you have questions. I know this is impossible to process. But first." Her gaze shifted to Keisha, and the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. "I need to see my grandson." "Over my dead body," Keisha said immediately, instinctively stepping back. The woman, Min Jun's mother, Yuna, smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "That can be arranged." Min Jun's father stood from his desk, his expression carefully neutral, like a man watching pieces move on a chessboard. "Yuna, we discussed this. The boy is not part of our agreement." "Agreements change, Jae-sung." Yuna's voice was silk over steel, especially when one party has been lying for 25 years. "You're supposed to be dead," Min Jun said, his voice gaining strength, trying to find solid ground in a world that kept shifting. "You died of cancer. I was 5 years old. I remember your funeral. I remember crying while they lowered your casket. I remember. You remember what he wanted you to remember." Yuna pointed at his father, her finger like a weapon. "The funeral was staged. The death certificate forged. The body in that casket was someone else, some poor woman who died in a hospital with no family to claim her. I was very much alive, just exiled. Erased. Made into a ghost." "Why?" The question came out as a whisper, broken and raw. "Why would he do that? Why would you let him?" "Because I made the mistake of falling in love with your father. Because I believed love could transcend race and culture and family obligations." Yuna's laugh was bitter, sharp enough to draw blood. "I was young, stupid, American. I thought our love story would have a happy ending. I thought being the mother of his son meant something. I was wrong on all counts." Keisha felt something twist in her chest, recognition. She saw herself in this woman. Saw the path she might have walked if things had gone differently. "What happened?" Keisha asked quietly. "What did they do to you?" Yuna turned to her, and for the first time, her expression softened slightly. "What always happens when black women enter spaces they're not supposed to occupy? I was tolerated when I was pregnant, useful as a womb, decorative as a trophy. I was celebrated when I gave birth to a son, proof that Jae-sung was modern, progressive, open-minded. But the moment I started having opinions, started questioning orders, started being more than a decorative breeding vessel." Yuna's eyes hardened. "I became a problem that needed to be solved." "What kind of problem?" Min Jun asked, his voice hollow. "The kind that suggested maybe raising you in a world of violence and crime wasn't ideal. The kind that thought a 5-year-old shouldn't witness executions. The kind that believed love and mercy weren't weaknesses." Yuna's hands clenched into fists. "I was trying to save you from becoming what they wanted, a weapon without a conscience. A king without a heart." Min Jun's father finally spoke, his voice cold and clinical. "You were trying to take my son to America. To remove him from his legacy, his birthright, his destiny. You wanted to turn the heir to a criminal empire into a soft American boy who knew nothing of power or survival. I couldn't allow it. I was trying to give him a choice, something you've never understood. Yuna's composure cracked, revealing the fury beneath. I was trying to let him be a child before you turned him into a monster. But you couldn't accept that. So you gave me an ultimatum: leave Min-jun and disappear forever, or watch your entire family die. My mother, my sister, my nephew back in Oakland. You had them all targeted. You showed me photos of their daily routines. Showed me how easy it would be to make them disappear. That's not true, Min-jun said, but his voice wavered, uncertain. Ask him. Yuna gestured to his father. Ask him if he threatened to kill my family if I didn't vanish. Ask him if he faked my death to control you, to make you believe you had nothing and no one but him. Ask him if every lie he's told you for 25 years was for your own good. All eyes turned to Min-jun's father. He stood silent for a long moment, his face impassive. Then he nodded once. I did what was necessary. You were making him weak, teaching him that emotions mattered more than power, that love was more important than legacy, that mercy was anything but a fatal flaw. I couldn't allow my heir to be raised with such dangerous foolishness. So you stole my son. Yuna's voice trembled with barely controlled rage. You made me dead to him. You forced me to watch from a distance, from another country, another life, as he grew up without me. Do you have any idea what that did to me? Watching him become exactly what I tried to prevent? Watching him turn into you. I turned out fine, Min-jun said defensively, but the words sounded hollow even to him. Did you? Yuna looked at him with sad, knowing eyes. You married a woman who tried to poison you because your father arranged it. You have enemies within your own organization because you've made choices based on power instead of wisdom. You fell in love with a maid. No offense. She nodded to Keisha with genuine respect, because she was the first person in your entire life to treat you like a human being instead of a weapon or a commodity. Does that sound fine to you? The words hit like physical blows. Min-jun stumbled back a step, and Keisha reached for his hand, grounding him. Why come back now? Keisha asked, trying to understand the full picture. After 25 years of watching from the shadows, why reveal yourself now? Because of James. Yuna's expression shifted to something complex. Love, fear, determination, desperation, all mixed together. Because I saw history about to repeat itself. Another woman of color entering this family. Another child of mixed heritage. Another innocent life about to be chewed up by this world. And I remembered what they did to me. What they'll do to you. What they'll absolutely do to him. James is protected, Min-jun said, his voice gaining strength. The council accepted him. Keisha approved herself, beat Chang-ho in front of everyone. We're building something different here, something better. You're building a fantasy. Yuna cut him off, her voice sharp. Do you really think the council accepted your son? They're tolerating him, waiting for the right moment to strike. And when they do, when they decide he's more liability than asset, when the political winds shift and having a half-black heir becomes inconvenient, they'll kill him. Just like they almost killed you through your wife's poison plot. Just like they'll kill Keisha the moment she's no longer useful or entertaining. You don't know that, Keisha said, but doubt crept into her voice. Don't I? Yuna pulled out a folder from her designer bag and tossed it on the desk with a slap that echoed like a gunshot. Ghost wasn't working alone. He was part of a network, 8 professional assassins, all hired through the same channels, all paid from the same accounts. 3 targets down already. 5 to go. And guess whose names are on that list? Min-jun grabbed the folder, flipping through it with increasing horror. His face went white as paper. These are all people loyal to me. People who supported James's legitimacy at the presentation. People who publicly backed Keisha. They're cleaning house, Yuna said, her voice dropping to something almost gentle, almost sympathetic. Removing anyone who might protect your son when the council eventually decides he's a problem. By this time next year, you'll be isolated, vulnerable, and your son will have a tragic accident. It's already in motion. The wheels are already turning. I've been tracking it for months. Then we fight back, Keisha said fiercely, her mama bear instincts roaring to life. We expose them. We go to Madam Chun with proof. You can't fight the council. No one can. They're too powerful, too entrenched, too interconnected. Yuna moved closer, and Keisha saw the weight of years in her eyes. I've spent 25 years studying this world from the outside, watching every power play, every attempted reform, every naive idealist who thought they could change things. They all failed. The council always wins. Always. Because they're willing to do whatever it takes to maintain power, and most people aren't willing to match that ruthlessness. Then what's your solution? Min-jun asked. Why are you here if there's no hope? Because there is one way to save James. Yuna's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. One way to give him what neither of you had, a real choice about his life. What way? Keisha demanded, though dread was already building in her stomach. You let me take him. The words fell like bombs. I disappear with James. Raise him far from this world, this violence, this poison. I have resources. Money I've hidden over the years, identities that can't be traced, places where the council's reach doesn't extend. He lives a normal life, goes to normal schools, has normal friends, makes his own choices about who he wants to be. Safe, free, unknown. The room went deathly silent. Absolutely not, Keisha said immediately, her voice sharp as broken glass. You'd never see him again, Minjun added, his voice hollow with horror. You're asking us to give up our son. I know. Yuna's eyes glistened with unshed tears. Believe me, I know exactly what I'm asking because it's what was done to me. I know the weight of that choice. I know what it means to watch your child grow up through distant photos and whispered reports. I know what it costs. The difference is I'm offering you a choice. I'm giving you the option I never had. Let your son live safely without you. Or keep him here and watch the council destroy him piece by piece. There has to be another option, Keisha insisted, her mind racing. There has to be a way to protect him that doesn't involve never seeing him again. There isn't. I've looked. I've planned. I've tried to find alternatives. Yuna's shoulders sagged. I've spent 25 years studying this world from every angle, looking for weaknesses, looking for ways to fight back. Every attempt to reform it, to change it, to make it more modern or humane has failed. The council always adapts, always survives, always wins. The only way to escape is to completely disappear. You're asking me to give up my child, Keisha said, tears streaming down her face now. You're asking me to let you take the most important thing in my world and never see him again. I'm asking you to save him. There's a difference. Yuna's voice broke. I'm trying to give my grandson the future I couldn't give my son. I'm trying to break the cycle. Don't make me the villain for that. Minjun's father spoke up, his voice cutting through the emotion like ice. This is unnecessary drama. The boy is protected. I've made arrangements, consolidated power, ensured his safety. Your arrangements are worthless. Yuna spun on him with venom. You couldn't protect your own son from a wife who was slowly poisoning him under your roof. You couldn't stop Ghost from infiltrating your supposedly impenetrable security. You couldn't prevent 4 other assassins from taking out your allies. You're losing control, Jae-sung. The empire is slipping through your fingers. And when you finally fall, and you will fall, everyone around you falls too, including your grandson. I won't lose control. You already have. You just refuse to see it. The tension in the room was suffocating. Keisha felt like she was drowning, pulled in a dozen directions, every choice leading to loss. She looked at Minjun and saw the same conflict in his eyes. He was actually considering it, actually weighing his mother's words against his love for his son. No, Keisha said firmly, finding her voice, finding her strength. We're not giving up our son. We're not running. We're not letting them win. I didn't fight Chong-ho and survive an assassin in my own home just to surrender now. Then what's your plan? Yuna challenged, but there was respect in her voice. Fight the council directly? You barely survived one assassin. They'll send 10 more. 20. However many it takes until you're dead. Then we make them regret it. Keisha's voice turned to steel, hardened by everything she'd survived. We don't run. We don't hide. We don't play by their rules. We change the game entirely. How? Minjun asked, hope flickering in his eyes. By doing what they never expect. By turning their own rules against them. Keisha's mind raced, pieces clicking together. Your mother is right about one thing. We can't fight the council directly, but we can make them fight each other. We can make them destroy themselves. What are you suggesting? Yuna asked, leaning forward with interest. Information. Leverage. Proof of everything they've done wrong. Keisha gestured to the folder. If Ghost was part of a network killing council members' own people, that means someone on the council authorized it. Someone broke their own rules, hired assassins to take out other council-protected individuals. That's betrayal. That's treason in their world. We find out who. We expose them publicly, and we watch the council tear itself apart. Eunice studied her with new respect, seeing something she hadn't expected. That's actually not terrible. It might even work. But you'd need evidence. Real, incontrovertible evidence. And you'd need time to gather it. Time you might not have. Then we get it fast. Ghost is in custody. Hae-won is cooperating. She wants to protect her family. We have 2 professional assassins who can testify about who hired them, who paid them, Who gave the orders? Who provided the security protocols? Keisha's voice gained confidence as the plan solidified. We bring all that evidence to Madame Chun. Let her decide if she wants to protect a traitor on her own council or clean her own house. Madame Chun isn't sentimental, Min Jun's father warned, but there was a glimmer of respect in his eyes. She'll do whatever serves her interests and her power, which is exactly why this works. A traitor on the council threatens her power structure, threatens her authority. She'll eliminate them to protect herself and send a message to anyone else thinking about betrayal. Keisha looked at Yuna. We don't need to destroy the entire council. We just need to remove the person trying to destroy us. Cut off the head, the body dies. Yuna was quiet for a long moment, considering. Then she smiled. A real smile, warm and genuine, that transformed her entire face. You're smarter than I gave you credit for. Braver too. You remind me of who I used to be, before they broke me. I had good teachers. Keisha glanced at Minji, who'd been silent through the whole exchange, standing guard by the door. And I had something to fight for that's bigger than fear. But you'll still need protection while you gather evidence. The assassins won't stop just because you have a plan. They'll accelerate, try to eliminate targets before you can expose anything. Yuna pulled out a phone, scrolled through contacts. I have people, good people, loyal to me, not the council. Soldiers, security specialists, intelligence operatives. Let me help. Let me do what I couldn't do 25 years ago. Why would you help us? Min Jun asked suspiciously, still processing the resurrection of his dead mother. After everything, after 25 years, why would you risk yourself now? Because you're my son. Because James is my grandson. Because 25 years ago, I couldn't save you from this world, but maybe, just maybe, I can save him. Yuna's voice cracked with emotion. And because that woman, she pointed to Keisha with something like admiration, reminds me of who I used to be. Fierce, stubborn, willing to fight impossible odds for the people she loves. I failed. I let them break me. Maybe she won't. Maybe together, we can win. Keisha felt an unexpected connection to this woman. This mother who'd been erased, hidden, forced to watch her son grow up without her. They were the same. Both outsiders. Both fighters. Both mothers willing to do anything for their children. Okay, Keisha said, extending her hand. We work together. But James stays with us. Non-negotiable. Agreed. Yuna shook her hand firmly, sealing the pact. Partners. Partners. Min Jun's father cleared his throat, interrupting the moment. This is touching, truly. Very emotional. But you're all forgetting one critical detail. The assassin network isn't waiting politely for you to build your case. They're already moving. They're ahead of you. And their next target, he pulled up a message on his phone, his expression grim, is tonight. Who? Min Jun demanded, moving closer. Madame Chen herself. They're planning to kill her at the charity gala in 3 hours. Make it look like natural causes, heart attack, stroke, something plausible for a woman her age. Remove the one person who might actually listen to your evidence before you can present it. Then we warn her. Keisha said immediately. She won't believe you without proof. Not accusations from a former maid, a son who's been compromised by emotions, and a mother who's supposed to be dead. Min Jun's father's expression was unreadable. By the time you convince her to take the threat seriously, she'll already be dead. The window is too narrow. Then what do we do? Keisha asked, frustration building. You stop the assassination yourself. You walk into a trap. You become bait. Again. He looked directly at Keisha. They're expecting you to stay home tonight. To hide. To protect your son like a good mother. If you show up at the gala instead, visible, vulnerable, available, they'll shift focus. Try to eliminate you first. You're the emotional target, the one that breaks Min Jun. If they can kill you publicly, humiliate him, make him weak, the rest falls apart. So, I paint a target on my back to save Madame Chun? Keisha's voice was flat. To save all of us. Without Madame Chun, the council fractures. Without the council, the territory wars start. Brutal, bloody, indiscriminate. And in that kind of war, everyone loses. Including James. Especially James. A child of mixed heritage with claims to power? He becomes a target for every faction trying to eliminate competition. Keisha looked at Min Jun, searching his face. At Yuna, seeing her own fear reflected back. At Minji, who nodded almost imperceptibly, a warrior acknowledging another warrior's necessary sacrifice. I'll do it, Keisha said quietly. Keisha, no, Min Jun started. Yes, he's right. If Madame Chun dies tonight, everything we've been fighting for dies with her. The evidence means nothing without someone powerful enough to act on it. I have to go. I have to be there. Then I'm coming with you, Min Jun said firmly, no room for argument in his voice. So am I, Yuna added, steel in her tone. And me, Minji finished, her hand already on her concealed weapon. Keisha felt something warm bloom in her chest. For the first time since this nightmare began, she wasn't alone. She wasn't fighting by herself. She had people, a team, a family, broken and complicated and forged in fire, but real. Okay, she said, allowing herself a small smile. Let's crash a gala and save a crime boss. How hard could it be? Everyone stared at her. That was sarcasm, she clarified, some of her old humor breaking through the tension. I know it's going to be nearly impossible, probably actually impossible, but we're doing it anyway. Nearly impossible is better than completely impossible, Yuna said with a slight smile, the first moment of lightness between them. Now let's get you ready. If you're going to save the most powerful woman in Asia, you need to look the part. Can't save the day in yesterday's clothes. If you're still watching, comment "Save Madam Chun" below and hit that like button because this finale is about to get wild. The ending you've been waiting for is almost here. Don't you dare click away now. The charity gala, 3 hours later. The Latte Hotel World Ballroom glittered with 1,000 points of light, crystal chandeliers, diamond jewelry, champagne glasses catching and throwing illumination like tiny stars. Wealth and danger existed in equal measure here, wrapped in designer labels and false smiles. Keisha entered on Min Jun's arm, wearing a gown that cost more than her entire year's salary as a maid. Midnight blue silk that flowed like water, elegant and understated but clearly expensive. She felt every inch the imposter, playing dress-up in a world that would never truly accept her. But she held her head high. She'd earned this, fought for this, bled for this. Yuna had entered separately, already positioned near the exits, wearing a crimson dress that turned heads and allowed her to blend with the other elegant older women in attendance. Minji was embedded with the security team, her trained eye watching for threats. And somewhere in this crowd of criminals dressed in $1,000 suits, an assassin waited. Madam Chun sat at the head table, surrounded by her personal guards, looking regal and untouchable in white and gold. She caught Keisha's eye across the room and nodded once. Acknowledgement, not quite approval, but recognition at least. How do we warn her without causing a scene? Keisha whispered to Min Jun as they moved through the crowd, nodding at faces she recognized from the council meeting. We don't. We wait for the assassin to make their move, then we stop them. Catching them in the act is the only way she'll believe the threat is real, not just paranoia or political maneuvering. Min Jun's jaw was tight. It's a risk, but it's our only play. So we're really doing the wait to be attacked plan? That's genuinely our strategy. You have a better idea? Not even a little bit, Keisha admitted. But I hate it anyway. They moved through the crowd, playing their parts. Smiling, nodding, making small talk with people who probably wanted them dead. Keisha felt eyes on her constantly. Some curious, some hostile, all assessing. The black American maid who'd somehow clawed her way into their exclusive world. Let them stare. She'd earned her place here, in blood and fear and determination. An hour passed with agonizing slowness. Then too, nothing seemed wrong. Everything appeared normal. Maybe they'd been wrong. Maybe the intelligence was bad. Maybe the assassins had been spooked and called off the hit. Maybe. Keisha saw it. A server near Madam Chen's table, moving just slightly wrong. His movements were too purposeful, too focused. While the other servers flowed through the crowd with practiced ease, he moved with military precision. His eyes never left Madam Chun. His hand kept drifting toward his jacket pocket in a way that screamed weapon to anyone trained to notice. Min Jun, 3 o'clock. Server in white jacket, Keisha murmured, her hand tightening on his arm. Min Jun tracked her gaze immediately. I see him. Minji, do you copy? Minji's voice crackled in their hidden earpieces. Copy. Moving to intercept. Give me 15 seconds to get into position. But the server was faster than expected. More desperate than anticipated. His hand came out with a syringe. Something that would cause cardiac arrest. Quick and clean. Something that would look natural for a woman Madam Chen's age. He moved toward her with the kind of calm confidence that came from having done this before. Keisha didn't think. Didn't hesitate. Didn't calculate odds. She ran. Crossed the ballroom in her heels, ignoring the stares, ignoring the gasps, ignoring everything except the need to reach Madam Chun before that needle did. She reached the table just as the server's hand came down with the syringe, aimed at Madame Chen's exposed neck. Keisha grabbed his wrist mid-strike, twisted hard, heard bone crack with a sound like a gunshot. The syringe fell, bouncing off the table. The server's other hand came up with a knife, backup plan, always prepared, and slashed at her face. Keisha ducked, felt the blade whisper past her ear close enough to cut a few strands of hair, and drove her fist into his throat using the technique Minji had drilled into her 1,000 times. He stumbled back, gasping, choking. Security finally reacted, swarming the table like a wave. But the server had backup. 3 more assassins appeared from the crowd, emerging from their cover positions, weapons drawn, creating instant chaos. They'd been waiting for the signal, waiting for the moment when security was focused on one threat to reveal themselves. Gunfire erupted. The crystal chandeliers shattered in a rain of glass. Guests screamed and dove for cover, upending tables, knocking over chairs. Madame Chen's personal guards formed a wall around her, weapons out, returning fire with professional precision. But one of the assassins broke through, moving with inhuman speed. Keisha grabbed a dinner knife from the table. Not a great weapon, barely a weapon at all, but better than nothing, and intercepted him. They clashed in a flurry of strikes and blocks, both operating on pure instinct and training. He was better trained, faster, stronger, operating with the calm efficiency of a professional killer. But she was more desperate, fighting for more than money or orders, fighting for her son's future, for her family, for everything she'd built. When he overextended on a stab, got too confident, too eager to end it, she caught his arm, used his momentum to throw him into a table with a crash of breaking china and crystal, and drove her stolen knife into his shoulder. Not to kill, to disable, to stop. He went down screaming, clutching his shoulder. Around the ballroom, Minjun and his security team were subduing the other assassins with brutal efficiency. Yuna appeared from seemingly nowhere, expertly disarming one with moves that spoke of serious military training. More than just self-defense, actual combat experience. Within 2 minutes, it was over. 4 assassins down. Madame Chun alive and unhurt, though her expression was thunderous. The ballroom looked like a war zone. Overturned furniture, broken glass, spent shell casings, and blood on the marble floor. Keisha stood in the center of the chaos, breathing hard, her expensive dress torn and bloodied, and met Madame Chen's eyes across the destruction. "You're welcome," Keisha said, unable to stop herself. Madame Chen studied her for a long moment. Then she laughed, a genuine, surprised laugh that echoed through the sudden quiet. "Well, this gala was significantly more entertaining than I anticipated." She gestured to her guards with calm authority. "Secure the prisoners. I want to know who sent them, who paid them, who provided inside information. And someone get Ms. Washington a chair before she collapses from blood loss. She's earned it." Keisha's legs gave out right on cue, adrenaline finally crashing. Minjun caught her, lowering her gently into a chair. "You're completely insane," he whispered, checking her for injuries. "You're just figuring that out now?" She managed a weak smile. Madame Chen approached, her guards parting to let her through. She looked at Keisha with something that might have been respect, might have been calculation, might have been both. "You saved my life. Twice in one evening, if we count stopping the first assassin. That's not something I take lightly. I didn't do it for gratitude. I did it because we need you alive," Keisha said honestly, too exhausted to play political games. "Oh," Madame Chen's eyebrow arched. "Because someone on your council is trying to destroy Minjun's family. They hired Ghost. They hired these assassins. They're systematically eliminating anyone who supports James's legitimacy." Keisha met her eyes without flinching. "And they tried to kill you tonight to prevent you from finding out who they are. Those are bold accusations. Dangerous accusations. With proof." Minjun stepped forward, handing her the folder his mother had provided, the one that had started this whole desperate plan. "Ghost talked before we handed him to the authorities. So did Haewon. They gave us names, transactions, communications, bank records, everything." Madame Chen flipped through the documents, her expression growing darker with each page, colder with each revelation. "Victor," she said finally, the name falling like a death sentence. "What?" Keisha asked. "Victor, the man who challenged James's legitimacy at the presentation. The man who wanted you to fail in the death match. The man who objected most vocally to your acceptance into this world." Madame Chen's voice was ice and fury combined. "He's been consolidating power for years, making alliances, positioning himself to take over. I suspected, but I didn't have proof. I couldn't move without proof. Now I do." She looked up at Keisha, And in that moment, Keisha saw why this woman ruled an empire. Pure, calculating, ruthless intelligence. You've done me a great service. An invaluable service. What do you want in return? Protection. Real protection. For James, for my family, for everyone loyal to Minjun. We want ironclad guarantees. Keisha's voice was steady despite her exhaustion. And we want Victor removed from the council. Permanently. Permanently, Madam Chun repeated, letting the word hang in the air. You understand what that means? You're asking me to execute a council member. I understand exactly what that means. But he tried to kill my son. He tried to kill you. And he'll keep trying until he succeeds, or he's stopped. Permanently. Keisha didn't look away. He's a traitor to everything the council supposedly stands for. Madam Chun nodded slowly, respect clear in her expression. I'll call an emergency council meeting. Tomorrow morning. Victor will be held accountable for his betrayal. And your son. She looked at Minjun. James is under my personal protection now. Anyone who touches him answers directly to me. And I will make sure the punishment is memorable. Thank you, Minjun said, and Keisha heard the relief in his voice. Don't thank me yet. Protection comes with expectations. James will be raised to serve the council's interests, not just your family's. He'll be taught our ways, our rules, our codes. He'll become what we need him to be, an heir who can bridge worlds. He'll become whatever he chooses to be, Keisha corrected, her mama bear instincts flaring. We'll teach him your ways. We'll prepare him for this world. We'll give him every tool he needs to survive. But his choices will be his own. His future will be his own. Madam Chen's eyes narrowed dangerously. For a moment, the room held its breath. Then she smiled. You continue to surprise me, Ms. Washington. Very well. Teach him as you see fit. But know this. If he becomes a liability, if he threatens the balance of power we've maintained for generations, I will end him myself. Grandson or not. Are we clear? Crystal clear, Keisha said, refusing to be intimidated. Good. Madam Chun turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Ms. Washington? That dress is completely ruined. Send me the bill for a replacement. Consider it a small thank you for the entertainment and for saving my life. She swept away, her guards following, leaving Keisha and Minjun alone in the wreckage of the gala. Keisha sagged in her chair, every injury from the past weeks suddenly screaming for attention, the adrenaline fully crashed now. Is it over? She asked Minjun, almost afraid to hope. Not quite. We still have the council meeting tomorrow. Victor will fight back. He has allies, resources, leverage. But, he squeezed her hand gently. The worst is over. We survived. We're going to make it. Yuna appeared beside them, her crimson dress surprisingly unstained despite the chaos. That was the most impressive thing I've seen in 25 years. Reckless, absolutely insane, but impressive. Learn from the best, Keisha said, looking at Minji, who'd approached from the security perimeter. Actually, you learned from your own desperation. That's always the best teacher, survival. Yuna knelt beside Keisha's chair, and in the light, Keisha could see tears in the older woman's eyes. I was wrong about you. You're not like I was. You're not a younger version of me. You're stronger, smarter. You're going to survive this world in ways I couldn't. You're going to protect your son in ways I couldn't protect mine. Will you stay? Keisha asked, reaching out to take Yuna's hand. James should know his grandmother. He deserves to know you. Yuna's eyes filled with tears that finally spilled over. I'd like that. Very much. If Minjun agrees. Minjun looked at his mother, really looked at her, for the first time in 25 years. Seeing not a ghost, not a memory, but a real person. Flawed and broken and strong. I have 25 years of questions, he said softly. I have 25 years of answers. And regrets. And love I never got to express. Yuna touched his face gently, the way a mother touches her child. I can't undo the past. I can't give you back those years. But maybe we can build a future. If you'll let me. If you can forgive me. There's nothing to forgive, Minjun said, his voice breaking. You did what you had to do to survive. To protect your family. I understand that now. They held each other, mother and son reunited, and Keisha saw years of pain beginning to heal. The council meeting, the next day. Victor stood in the center of the council chamber, surrounded by evidence of his betrayal displayed on screens around the room. The photos, the financial records, the testimony from captured assassins, the communications traced back to his accounts, the security breaches that only someone at his level could have authorized. It was overwhelming, damning, undeniable. You've been systematically trying to destabilize my organization, Madam Chen said coldly, her voice echoing in the formal chamber. Hiring assassins to eliminate my allies and supporters. Attempting to murder me at a public event. All to seize more power, to position yourself to take over the council. I was trying to preserve tradition. Victor shouted, his composure finally breaking, desperation bleeding through. You've gone soft, Madam Chun. Accepting half-breeds and foreigners into our ranks. Allowing emotions to dictate policy. The old ways are dying because of people like her. He pointed at Keisha with pure venom. The old ways were dying long before she arrived. You just refused to see it because you benefited from the old ways. Madam Chun stood, her presence commanding absolute attention. The council finds you guilty of treason, of murder, of attempting to destabilize the very organization you swore to protect. The sentence is death. Immediate. Final. Without appeal. You can't, Victor started. I can. And I will. She nodded to her guards. Take him. Execute the sentence within the hour. Let his death serve as a lesson to anyone else considering betrayal. Victor lunged for a weapon he'd hidden, one final desperate play, but he was too slow. Too obvious. Guards subdued him efficiently, professionally, dragging him away while he screamed threats and curses that echoed down the hallways. When the doors closed behind him, cutting off his screams, the room fell into heavy silence. Madam Chun turned to the remaining council members, her gaze sweeping over each of them, letting the lessons sink in. Let Victor's fate be a reminder. We evolve or we die. We adapt or we're destroyed. And I choose evolution, even if it makes some of us uncomfortable. She looked directly at Keisha and Min Jun. James Park is recognized as the legitimate heir to the Park family empire. Any who challenge this will answer to me personally. Any who threaten this child will face the same fate as Victor. Are we absolutely clear? A chorus of yes, Madam Chun filled the room. Unanimous, terrified, compliant. Good. This council is adjourned. Outside the chamber, Keisha finally allowed herself to breathe. To believe it was really over. It's really over, she said in wonder, saying it out loud to make it real. It's really over, Min Jun confirmed, pulling her close, holding her like he might never let go. What happens now? She asked against his chest. Now? We go home. We raise our son. We build a life that's ours, not dictated by councils or traditions or other people's expectations. He kissed her forehead with infinite gentleness. And we never, ever volunteer to be bait again. She laughed, really laughed, for the first time in weeks. Deal. Absolutely deal. 6 months later, Keisha stood in the garden of the Park estate, watching James take his first wobbly steps across the soft grass. He stumbled, fell on his padded bottom, and immediately tried again with that determined baby focus that made her heart swell. He's stubborn like his mother, Min Jun said, wrapping his arms around her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. And reckless like his father, she countered, leaning back into his embrace. Fair point. Very fair point. Life had settled into something almost normal, or at least as normal as life could be when you were raising the heir to a criminal empire. Victor was gone, executed quietly, his territory redistributed among council members who'd proven loyal. The assassin network had been dismantled piece by piece. Hei-Wan was recovering in a secure facility, her family protected and financially supported as promised. And Yuna had moved into a house nearby, close enough to visit daily, but far enough to give them space. Slowly rebuilding her relationship with Min Jun and getting to know her grandson with the desperate joy of someone making up for lost time. It wasn't perfect. There were still threats, still dangers, still enemies waiting in the shadows for an opportunity to strike. But for now, in this moment, they were safe. They were together. They were family. James finally managed 3 full steps before falling into Keisha's arms, giggling triumphantly at his accomplishment. That's my boy, she whispered, kissing his forehead, breathing in that perfect baby smell. Strong and brave and absolutely perfect. Just like his mother, Min Jun said, kissing her temple. Stop being cheesy. Never. You're stuck with cheesy Min Jun forever now. She turned to kiss him properly, and James squished between them, demanding attention with insistent baby noises. They laughed, the 3 of them, a family that shouldn't have survived but did anyway. A family forged in fire and blood and impossible choices. A family that chose love over safety, over tradition, over everything else. In the distance, watching through the window of her nearby house, Eunice smiled at the sight of her son finally finding happiness, finding peace, finding the life she'd always wanted for him but could never give him. And in her office across the city, Madame Chen reviewed reports about a new threat emerging in the Southern Territories, already planning her next moves, already positioning pieces on the chessboard. The game never stopped. The world never paused. But for Keisha, Minjun, and James, they'd found their happy ending. Not perfect, not safe, but theirs. And sometimes, that was more than enough. Sometimes, that was everything. All right, fam, that's the end. The real end. Keisha got her happy ending. James is safe and taking his first steps. Minjun has his family back, both his mother and the woman he loves. Yuna is finally getting to know her grandson. And they all survived the impossible. If you made it this far, you're real ones. You've been with this story through 4 parts, through every fight, every betrayal, every impossible choice. Thank you for that. Seriously, hit that subscribe button one more time because I've got another story coming that's going to make this one look tame. We're talking about a mafia boss forced helplessly into a marriage when his heart already belongs to another and she doesn't even know it, and a love story that literally burns down half of soul before it's over. I'm calling it. Let me reserve that for when it drops, and it drops tomorrow. If you love this series, if you cried when Keisha fought Changho, if you held your breath when she saved Madame Chun, if you cheered when they finally got their happy ending, you're going to lose your mind over what's coming next. Drop a comment below telling me your favorite moment from this entire series. Was it the wedding that never happened? The death match? The assassin fight? The mother's return? Let me know what hit you hardest. Hit that like button one last time to show me you want more stories like this. More love, more danger, more impossible situations, and the people brave enough to fight through them. And subscribe to True Soul Stories because we're just getting started. This was one story. There are dozens more waiting. Stories about love and power and survival. Stories about people who refuse to give up even when everything's stacked against them. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring about Keisha and Minjun and James and their impossible happy ending. This is your host, signing off from this series. Stay tuned for the it. You're not going to want to miss it. The end.